Have you ever wondered where the idea of demons really comes from? We see them everywhere in pop culture, in movies, video games, and books. They're often portrayed as red-horned creatures with pitchforks. But is that the whole story? Where did humanity first get these chilling ideas of malevolent spirits? Today, we're going on a deep dive, journeying back thousands of years to uncover the real origins of demons. This is a story that spans across ancient civilizations, evolving religions, and the very core of human psychology. It's far more complex and fascinating than you might think. Let's start our journey in ancient Mesopotamia, often called the cradle of civilization. Here, more than 5,000 years ago, people didn't necessarily see a strict divide between gods and demons. Instead, they believed in a world teeming with supernatural spirits of all kinds. Some were helpful, others were mischievous, and some were downright dangerous. These weren't necessarily evil in the way we think of it today. They were more like forces of nature. For example, the demon Pazuzu, who you might recognize from the movie The Exorcist, was a terrifying figure. He had the head of a lion or dog, the wings of an eagle, and a scorpion's tail. He was the bringer of famine during the dry season and locusts during rainy ones. But here's the twist. Mesopotamians would also use amulets with Pazuzu's image to ward off another, even more feared demoness named Lamashtu, who was believed to harm mothers and infants. So, in a strange way, one demon could be used to protect against another. It was a world of cosmic balance, where these powerful beings were part of the natural order, not just symbols of pure evil. Another key concept from this era was the idea of ghosts or restless spirits, known as Gideon in Sumerian. These were the spirits of people who hadn't received a proper burial. They were thought to wander the earth, plagued by hunger and sadness, and could cause trouble for the living, bringing sickness or misfortune. Again, they weren't evil for the sake of being evil. They were just suffering. The living had a responsibility to appease them through offerings and rituals. This shows us that early on, the line between a ghost and a demon was very blurry. A demon was often just a powerful, non-human spirit or a particularly troubled human one. Now, let's travel west to ancient Egypt. Much like the Mesopotamians, the Egyptians believed in a host of supernatural entities. Their underworld, the Duat, was a dangerous place filled with monstrous beings that the soul of the deceased had to navigate. There were creatures with knives for heads and beings that would try to devour the soul's heart. But perhaps the most famous demonic figure from Egypt is Apep, or Apup. App was a colossal serpent who represented chaos and darkness. Every single night, he would try to swallow the sun god Ra's boat as it traveled through the underworld. If Apep succeeded, the sun would not rise, and the world would be plunged into eternal darkness. The gods and the blessed dead had to fight Apep every night to ensure the sun would rise again. Apep was a symbol of pure, destructive chaos, a force that existed to unravel creation itself. This is one of our first glimpses of a being that is purely antagonistic, a true enemy of the gods and order. As we move forward in time, we arrive in ancient Persia, home to a religion that would profoundly influence the world, Zoroastrianism. This is where we see the concept of dualism really take center stage. Zoroastrianism, founded by the prophet Zoroaster, proposed that the universe was a battleground between two opposing forces. On one side was Ahura Mazda, the supreme god of light, truth, and creation. On the other was Angra Mainyu, also known as Ahriman, the spirit of darkness, destruction, and lies. Angra Mainyu wasn't just a mischievous spirit or a force of nature. He was the cosmic adversary, the source of all evil in the world. He commanded a legion of malevolent spirits called Devas. Interestingly, the word Deva is related to the older Indo-European word Deva, which originally just meant god or shining one. In Zoroastrianism, these old gods were recast as evil spirits. This was a revolutionary idea, the clear separation of good and evil into two warring camps. This dualistic worldview would have a massive impact on the Abrahamic religions that followed. And that brings us to Judaism. Early Jewish texts don't talk much about a single or powerful evil entity. Like their neighbors, they believed in various spirits and supernatural beings. You might see mentions of Shadim, which were foreign gods or idols reinterpreted as spirits. Or figures like Azazel, the scapegoat in the wilderness. Lilith is another fascinating figure from Jewish folklore. She is often described as Adam's first wife, who was created equal to him and refused to be subservient. She fled the Garden of Eden and was later demonized as a stealer of babies. But the idea of the devil as we know him, a singular archenemy of God, wasn't fully formed yet. It was during the Second Temple period, from about 500 BC to 78 D, when Jewish thought was influenced by contact with Zoroastrianism, that these ideas began to crystallize. The concept of a powerful evil adversary started to gain traction. We begin to see the figure of Satan. The word Satan in Hebrew originally means the accuser or the adversary. In the book of Job, Satan appears as a member of God's divine council, a sort of heavenly prosecutor whose job is to test the righteousness of humankind. He isn't God's enemy, but rather an agent serving a specific, if unsettling, purpose. However, over time this character evolved. the accuser became the accuser, a fallen angel who rebelled against God out of pride. This narrative, particularly popular in non-canonical texts like the Book of Enoch, describes a group of angels called the Watchers who descended to earth, lusted after human women, and taught humanity forbidden arts like warfare and sorcery. Their offspring were the Nephilim, a race of destructive giants. This story of a heavenly rebellion became the quintessential origin story for demons in the Abrahamic tradition. This evolving concept of demons was then fully inherited and expanded upon by Christianity. In the New Testament, demons are unquestionably real and malevolent entities. They are the followers of Satan, the prince of this world, who actively work to tempt, torment, and lead humanity away from God. Jesus' ministry is filled with accounts of him casting out demons, healing those possessed by them, and directly confronting Satan in the desert. The demon was no longer just a mischievous spirit or a force of nature. It was a soldier in a cosmic war for the souls of humanity. The imagery became standardized. Demons were fallen angels, cast out of heaven with Lucifer, forever bitter and resentful, dedicated to corrupting God's favorite creationists. The Middle Ages in Europe saw this belief reach a fever pitch. The world was seen as a place filled with demonic influence. Any misfortune, from a failed crop to a sudden illness, could be blamed on a demon. The fear of witchcraft and demonic pacts led to the infamous witch trials, where thousands of people, mostly women, were accused of consorting with the devil and executed. This period produced a huge body of literature called demonology, with books like the Malleus Maleficarum or Hammer of the Witches providing detailed and terrifying instructions on how to identify, prosecute, and punish supposed witches and demons. They created complex hierarchies of hell, naming and cataloging demons like Beelzebub, Asmodeus, and Belial, each with their own specific domain and powers. But what about the science behind it all? From a psychological perspective, the concept of demons can be seen as a way for humans to personify and explain the unexplainable. Why do bad things happen to good people? Why is there suffering and chaos in the world? Why do people have dark, destructive impulses? Attributing these things to an external, malevolent force, a demon, can be a comforting way to make sense of a frightening and unpredictable world. It separates the evil out there from the good in here. Psychologists like Carl Jung talked about the shadow, the unconscious, darker side of our personality. The demon can be seen as a cultural projection of this collective human shadow. Before we had the language of modern psychology to talk about mental illness, trauma, or neurological disorders like epilepsy, these conditions were often interpreted as demonic possession. The ritual of exorcism then can be viewed as a form of early psychotherapy, a powerful symbolic act meant to restore order to a troubled mind. So, the story of the demon is a long and winding one. It began with animistic spirits and restless ghosts in Mesopotamia, evolved into a cosmic force of chaos in Egypt, and was then forged into the ultimate symbol of evil by Zoroastrian dualism. This idea was adopted and refined by Judaism and Christianity, creating the fallen angel narrative that dominates Western culture. Throughout it all, the demon has served as a powerful symbol, a way to explain suffering, to personify our fears, and to understand the darker aspects of our own human nature. From Pazuzu to Satan, the face of the demon has changed, but its role as a mirror to humanity's deepest anxieties has remained constant. What we call a demon says more about us, our fears, our values, and our understanding of the world than it does about any actual horned creature. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through history and mythology. If you found this interesting, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories that shape our world. Let me know in the comments what ancient topic you'd like to see me cover next. Until then, stay curious.